The industry is digital accessibility. You might know it as ADA website compliance. So let's look at the accessibility software market, which is projected to hit $800 million in 2025 by Mortar Intelligence. They also projected over $1 billion for 2030, but there's no way you could know that with AI. But we move on. On this next slide, I have a general bar graph where all of the bars are moving upwards. This is to indicate that all is well for the accessibility software market. On this next slide, I have a factory with smokestacks where everything is churning along. The smoke is billowing. And so again, this marketplace is thriving. But is the software actually helping buyers? On this next slide, I have a comic book strip. And I want to put aside the 2030 projection. Let's forget about accessibility software for a moment. And let's just focus in on this comic book strip. So we have a man who is walking up to a brick and mortar ham store, just like any other day, where a man is going to purchase a ham. We see a ham in the window. And then on the second panel, we see that a salesman has entered the frame. And so he's holding up a very shiny sprocket, which is captivating the man who was going to the ham store. So in this third panel, we have the man who was going to buy the ham now holding up the sprocket and looking at it with some fascination. And then in this last panel, we have money exchanging hands. So the salesman now has the cash and there's a handshake being made in front of the ham store. So what has happened is this man went to the ham store to buy a ham. He was diverted by the salesman, and now he's coming away with a shiny sprocket and no ham. So that's a lot of what's going on here, but let's get into more detail. So what I did was I had AI categorize the 20 plus accessibility softwares that show up on Google when you search for accessibility software. And now I pose the question, does any software align with full WCAG 2.1 AA conformance? So WCAG 2.1 AA is a technical standard for web accessibility, and it's used across the world to help make digital assets accessible to people with disabilities. It's also a best practice for the law, if not required under the law or various regulations. So again, does any software align with full WCAG conformance? Or is a good old-fashioned manual audit still needed? And here I've just sped up the presentation to give you the conclusion right now. The conclusion is that various software and tools have value to practitioners who understand the various tools and software's roles and capabilities. However, software provides no or negative value to most consumers because their objective is WCAG 2.1 or 2.2 AA conformance, not 100% score on a scan, not finding only the accessibility issues that are flagged by a scan. So we think back to the comic book strip where the man was going to the ham store. That is where the consumer in this market is headed. They want full WCAG conformance. So they're going to the ham store to buy the ham, but that salesman is coming up with that shiny sprocket, which is the software and the tools, and they're distracting the consumer from getting what they actually want, and they're selling them on something else entirely. So let's go through the rest of this presentation. The next two slides are very compelling. I have two different quotes, and I'm going to tell you where these quotes came from in a second, but let's read through the quote. While automated tools are a huge help in accessibility testing, they can't catch every error since they can't understand context or evaluate content quality. So after you've done a first pass with the automated tools, you'll need to follow with manual testing to ensure your website is inclusive and accessible. And this quote comes from Harvard. This is on Harvard's website, Harvard University. And here I've got the header for their page. We see Harvard University Digital Accessibility, the heading Automated Tools for Testing Accessibility. And then here we can see the exact screenshot of where this comes from. My point being, if you need the audit anyway, which an audit is going to be a formal manual evaluation of the digital asset, If you need the audit anyway, then what are you buying the software and the tools for? Again, they are for practitioners who understand their roles and capability. They are not for most consumers who are the ones that are creating this gigantic market. So let's continue on with the 5 categories of software. And I've generalized these to fall in 5 buckets. Sometimes some software or tools will fall out here outside of these 5 categories, but in general, here's where the software falls. So we have accessibility monitoring platforms. And this is where a lot of sophisticated buyers get sidetracked. So with these platforms, we have automated scans of entire sites. We can scan on a schedule. We can log into pages requiring authentication. So we can scan pages that we can't otherwise scan with a free scan. We also have integration with project management platforms like Jira, and we can slice and dice the scan results so we can sort by the different WCAG success criteria. We can look at certain issues. We can have analytics on all sorts of different information and data. And then we can also get monitoring, alerts, analytics, reports, fixed suggestions. It's quite comprehensive here. But again, most of the platforms are scan based, and that is problematic because scans only flag a limited number of accessibility issues. And even of the issues that they do flag, we cannot rely upon scan results. Again, we need that formal audit that is conducted manually by a technical accessibility expert. Now, during that audit, a scan can be used as a review. We don't rely upon the scan, and that's what's necessary for full conformance with these technical standards that we're after for, in most cases, compliance. So again, we're looking to the technical standards. We're not looking to the software. We're not looking to the scan. We're looking to these technical standards. So that's what we need to pay attention to. All right, next category, multi-function site checkers. So we bring forward a lot of the qualities from the previous category, right? So the analytics, the scan, the ability to slice and dice. We have this dashboard, and then with the multi-function aspect, we now have SEO, spell check, analytics all as a part of this. But again, we're going back to the foundation of a scan. Next category, overlays and widgets. So think of these as an on-page menu of settings that render superficial adjustments using JavaScript. So the claim is that the fixes are automated, that we can somehow automate remediation, even though we can't even automate finding the issues. Now, what is important about overlays and widgets is the code and content remain unchanged. And if you want to read more about this to find out why widgets don't work, go to overlayfactsheet.com and all of your questions will be answered. All right, and so the next category, developer testing tools. So here we have scans that are integrated into the development process. These scans will the scans are not only for pages, but you can actually focus in on individual elements. You can catch errors while you're coding, and the tools can also give you remediation guidance. And then we also have browser extensions. So here we have individual tools such as a color contrast analyzer, or checking if a page is responsive. We have the ability to scan pages through these browser extensions. And then we also can display on-page markers. So one thing I did not make clear is there are different types of extensions, one of which is where we have individual tools for specific purposes, and then others are which are for scanning. So we can scan inside of the page using the extension. So again, these extensions can also display on-page markers, which can be helpful. They can instantly check different elements on a page, and they can help guide us through issues and different checks we make on the page. And now I introduce you to a platform that does not fit in any of the categories, and that platform is Accessibility Tracker. And the first bullet point on the slide means everything. Accessibility Tracker is audit-based. That makes all of the difference. The reason why is we are now working from accurate data. Our data is no longer skewed. We're no longer working from the limited scan issues. Now we are working from an actual audit report where the audit was conducted by a technical accessibility expert, and they manually evaluated our digital asset against the web content accessibility guidelines. Why is this so important? So that we are aligned with the web content accessibility guidelines, because that is the objective of the consumers in this market. Again, this is why this is so profound. This one switch is needed. It's everything. It makes all of the difference. Of course, Accessibility Tracker has other features, but it's so important to focus in on the fact that this isn't automated. It's not based on automation. It's based on the manual work necessary to ensure that we make our digital asset WCAG conformant. So audit based is everything. You upload your audit report, and then once you upload your audit report, everything comes into place. Now you can work from complete and accurate data. Now you can know that you are conclusively going to reach WCAG conformance, and you're going to be able to track every single issue in your audit report. So continuing on with the other features, there are 2 prioritization formulas that provide you a level of precision where you're not working from low, medium, and high. You're working from actual weighted and data-driven formulas that tell you exactly what issues to start with. There is also AI to help you with fixes inside of Accessibility Tracker. Now, you will find AI elsewhere, but now AI has your complete audit data. That difference, again, it means everything, because now when your team is working, even if they're new to accessibility, let's say your developer is unfamiliar with accessibility, same with your designer and your content editor, they can all have AI to help them as they're making the fixes. This is going to save a lot of time and a lot of money. It also saves on rounds of validation where we make sure that the fixes have been made correctly. So AI is going to be very helpful. And again, now AI is being used across all of the issues rather than just a limited few. And then everything, also what's nice is now everything is one centralized hub. Of course, you can assign issues to different team members. You can update the statuses of issues so that you know exactly where everything stands. You know who's responsible for the issue. And now we're not working on different dashboards with different tools. We're not working from spreadsheets. Everything is centralized inside of a hub. As I said, you can check the issue status. You can update the issue status. There are analytics inside of Accessibility Tracker. You can take notes because now you have the audit data. You can update a single issue on any notes for that issue. The validator can provide feedback. So we've thought of everything. We've put it inside of Accessibility Tracker. Now you can be confident. Now you don't have to go back to the audit and work from the audit anyway. Now you're working towards full WCAG conformance, and you can have certainty when you're making progress and you're looking at those graphs and you're looking at the pie charts and the percentages. Now you know they're accurate. And on this next slide, I have a screenshot from Accessibility Tracker. This is inside of the dashboard where we have the audit report transposed inside of Accessibility Tracker. And so again, now we're looking at the actual audit report. We're not looking at scan results. So here we have the issue, the location of the issue. We can see the WCAG success criterion. We can see who the issue is assigned to. We can check the status. Here a few issues are marked completed. Some are not started. Now we can easily know what the status is of each accessibility issue. We can sort by our own custom priority, or we can use the 2 prioritization formulas that I talked about, user impact and risk factor. Here we can see those, and they're indicated by specific scores. And we can also get a more granular look at the issue. And then again, all of the audit data is going to be inside of this single issue view. So it's extremely helpful. We go back to Harvard on this next slide. Remember the Harvard quote. So after you've done a first pass with automated tools, you'll need to follow up with manual testing to make sure your website is inclusive and accessible. Why are we following? Why not just have everything in one report? Why are we using the software? Unless you know the specific reason why you want to use the software, then you need the audit report, because you're not going after 100% score on a scan. What you are going after is full conformance. And if that is your objective, then you're going to end up at the ham store where you were trying to buy the ham and you were diverted into buying something else entirely, something that doesn't actually help you reach your end objective. That man who's walking into the ham store, He didn't come out with a ham. He came out with a shiny new sprocket. And of course, that sprocket isn't going to turn into a ham. Very similarly, with the accessibility software marketplace, a lot of buyers are looking for full WCAG conformance, but when they get into the sales demo and the sales pitch, they're sold on something else. They're sold on a scan, which they don't really need the scan. They need the audit, and they need the accurate audit data to know exactly where they stand when it comes to full WCAG conformance. So, conclusion, I restate, tools have value to practitioners who understand their role and capabilities. But software provides limited to negative value to most consumers because those consumers have the objective of WCAG 2.1 AA or 2.2 AA conformance and not 100% score on a scan. And if you would like to try Accessibility Tracker, you can sign up for a free plan at accessibilitytracker.com. Accessibility Tracker is a project management platform built specifically for digital accessibility. Again, it is audit based, not scan based. This means you're working from real data. You can make fixes faster, reduce your validation time with the AI inside of Accessibility Tracker, and you can finish projects faster.